What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another edition of the Locks DFS NBA breakdown video. I am your host, Christian Hardy. I am at ByHardy on Twitter. I am ByHardy on DraftKings. And we are going to be going through this 11-game NBA slate for October 30th, one day before Halloween. We have a nice little 11-game slate here. Before we get into it, I wanted to remind you guys of a few things. First of all, to hit me up on Twitter at ByHardy. I just mentioned it. That helps me out a lot. But also, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That helps us out a ton. A lot of you guys who are watching the videos aren't subscribed yet, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you leave a comment and you're a subscriber on any of our videos, you have a chance to win a free season pass from locksdfs.com. We'll announce that on the Thursday night video, which will come out tonight. Thursday night showdown video that comes out tonight, so be sure to check that out. That'll be up on the YouTube channel tonight, late tonight. And check us out at locksdfs.com as well, where we post our full breakdowns. It looks like I am not signed into my account right now, so I'm not going to be able to show you what the product looks like, unfortunately. But this is where you will get our full player-by-player analysis on every slate, as well as our player grades. And just we rank our studs and values as well, and we also give you guys just insight in the Slack into our builds for the game, for the slate. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this 11-game NBA slate. So first I'm going to pull up, actually, before we go over to DraftKings, we have the highest total game on the slate is right here at 232.5. That is the Houston Rockets and the Washington Wizards. The second is actually, I can't scroll down to it because it's at the very bottom, but it is the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. So those are that game's at 229.5. That's also risen a point. This game's risen 2 points. Those are the two games we want to target the most. I think I probably want two pieces in each of those games. This is another one that's a little bit interesting for me. The Timberwolves and the 76ers. Both those teams are going to be pretty high in pace. I'm a little bit worried about Philadelphia potentially blowing that game out. But that said, let's go ahead and start to look at some things on this slate. So first of all, let's start with Houston, who has the highest team total on the slate. And we have James Harden at the top here at 10.1K, who I'm very interested in. Again, the Rockets have a implied 120 team total. Washington is only 20th in pace, but I think that they will play up to Houston's pace in this game, which obviously is quick. That's reflected in the team total. Most projection systems are going to have Harden scoring 60 here, and that's just not reflected in his price yet. So, we saw him struggle in even in this game. I mean, he hasn't shot as efficiently as he can. I mean, he's 3 for 14, 2 for 18 on three-pointers. So, dude is chucking. He gets a pretty nice defensive matchup here. Washington has actually looked decent on defense so far this year, and maybe the pieces they added, like Chmura, are going to help this team out. I tend to err on the side of this is just they're not actually going to be this good on defense, and I really, really like Harden today. The other price that stands out to me for Houston is going to be not PJ Tucker. It is going to be Eric Gordon right here at 3.9K. Another guy who, if you look at projections, he's just going to pop off the screen because we've seen him at 4.3, 4.6, 4.7, and then he gets this massive dip down to 3.9. Of course, this is a guy where I'm not sure if I would love to play Gordon in tournaments because his upside is really just hitting his shots, and he's not really going to do a lot peripheral-wise, but I do think that at 3.9K, you have a pretty good shot of getting 20 out of him and upside for like 28 for the most part. So, yeah, like I think that Gordon, in terms of how he plays in the rotation, he's playing either with Russell or he's playing with Harden. They tend to keep one of those guys on the floor. Then they have Gordon at the other guard spot for the most part. So I just think that he's a little bit underpriced for his usage. I just think that maybe in tournaments I might not go here because I don't know how much upside he really has. And on top of that, I just think that usually once injuries start to come out and we hear more news, you can tend to find guys that make more sense in terms of their rotations and minutes that are cheap. You don't want to necessarily be playing a guy off the bench in GPPs because of their upside is a little bit capped. On the other side, I do have a little bit of interest in Washington, as it looks like they're expected to keep this game close. So if they keep the game close, you might want a piece. I do think the top two, obviously Beal is a top guy, but he's just someone that you're only going to be getting to in GPPs just in general. He's just not a cash play. These two guys are the ones I'm really looking at. I don't mind the price on Ish Smith either. He hasn't been very productive except for this last game, but he is their starting point guard. He got in foul trouble in this first game here, so he's had the minutes down a little bit. He ended up with 4, but I remember in the first half, I'm pretty sure he didn't play a full allotment of his minutes, so he's not a bad play. He's very cheap for the starting point guard against this in a pace up. But the guy I really like is Rui Hachimura. Just a stud in college. He was a stud in college at Gonzaga. Obviously, that's why he was drafted where he was drafted. The biggest thing here for me is just the minutes. I mean, he's played 35 and 38 minutes in the last 2 games, and at 5.4K, he doesn't really have to do a lot to really get there at that price. This is just my favorite piece to run it back with. Obviously, he does draw a little bit of a tough defensive matchup with PJ Tucker, but Hachimura is going to do enough he's going to shoot, and he's going to get you usage, and he's going to get you rebounds. It's a pace-up spot for the Wizards as far as we're seeing right now. So he's just the type of player who can do it all, and if he's playing 35 or 38 minutes, this is a smash price for him in a pace-up spot. Another cheap guy, I don't mind Thomas Bryant as well. I think that he's a solid play. But another cheap guy who is actually Bertans has, and I need to look into a little bit more as to potentially why he could be. Make sure there's nothing like Bonga being in foul trouble or anything, but it looks like they want Bertans on the floor in their closing team, which is why we've seen him play the minutes that he's getting. He's been closing out games for them. And at 3.7K, I think the Bertans is an awesome value play. Like, it looks like that they want to play him over Bonga on the closing squad. It gives the team, Bertans can play the 3 and the 4. It gives them a little bit of flexibility in terms of what they can do there. He's going to come off the bench, of course. So, like I said, kind of with Eric Gordon, you might end up with, a 3-point-something K starter instead of Bertans. But I do think that he's a solid cash play and a great option to run Harden back with as well, just like Hachimura is. So that's the kind of the gist of that game for me. Going over to the second highest total game real quick, let's talk about some guys in this game. I love Steph Curry again today. We saw him come through in that New Orleans game. It's pretty clearly a good spot for him that he was going to come through. Let me get a sip real quick. Okay, sorry about that. He's still 9,500, and I'm expecting Steph to, again, I think that we're going to see him putting up 25 shots if we get a game where it's going to be close and he's going to play. He played only, I think he played a few minutes in the fourth quarter in this game, 4 or 5 minutes. And then they sat him for the end of the game. In OKC and LA, he did not play the fourth quarters. So we're still not seeing, Steph did get there against New Orleans, but he got there without playing the end of the game. We have not seen the upside that Steph Curry can bring yet. This is another spot. Phoenix, while they are only 14th in pace, they have played some tough teams. They have played, let me think. They have played, I got it in my notes actually. They played the Trailblazers, they played the Jazz, and they played the Nuggets. All teams that are pretty defensive. They're not going to play really pace up. So I think that Steph, if this game stays close, which according to Vegas, sorry, I know you guys can't see it, but they're only 5-point favorites in this game. Phoenix has looked really competitive this year. So I think Curry is an awesome play once again. One issue that I'm going to have to decide on, as I'm building my teams is how much Curry do I want? How much Curry do I want? How much Harden do I want? And then we'll get to the big guys in Minnesota and Philly, but they're also very good plays. So I'm going to have to decide kind of where I want to fall on those guys. But I think Steph, in terms of fantasy point per dollar production, is an awesome play here. I think pretty consistently, if he stays at 9.5K, he's going to be hitting 6x in close games. Moving over to Phoenix, I think that there are a few good prices here, and it's kind of the same situation here where they they've played in games where they haven't got run deep into the fourth. LA was one, and Sacramento was one. Oubre right now is my favorite play on the Suns team to possibly run back Curry with. Oubre has averaged 1.2 fantasy points per minute so far this year. He's in a pace-up spot where Golden State Warriors are 8th in pace in the league right now. He's played 34 and 37 minutes in these two close games. You give him 34, 37 minutes at 1.2 fantasy points per minute, you're going over 40 points there. A guy who can grab rebounds. He's going to give you a few assists. He's going to give you a few defensive stats. And he has looked fantastic as a scorer with Ayton not on the floor this year. I mean, he's really taken the scoring role for the Suns. He's looked like the alpha dog on offense for this team, other than possibly Booker. But even with Booker, Booker is a guy who oftentimes will just kind of sit around the 3-point line and look for those jumpers. Whereas Oubre is a guy who has a great mid-range game and is going to get to the hoop. He's so quick and electric. I like how Oubre looks right now. I think that's a really good price for him. I don't mind the price on Rubio either. At 6.2K, it's another situation there with Rubio where if you look at the minutes, he's going to be closer to this 36 minutes a game. I think Oubre gives you a ton more upside for the same price, so that's why I'm more interested in Oubre. If you have the choice, obviously they're different positions, so do with that as you will. That's pretty much going to be it for me. Golden State's getting Willie Cauley-Stein back, so the value of big men there is pretty much dead for now. So we can move on to Minnesota and Philly. I think that is the last place I want to talk about real quick. And I don't know if people are going to be owning these Embiid and Towns. I'm not sure yet, and I have to kind of delve into more content elsewhere to see kind of what I'm thinking the ownership is going to be on these two guys. But I think I'm going to be trying to get one of them. I like Towns for 100 less. In terms of his point per minute production, I think that, especially with him shooting so many threes, that he's a slightly better play, but he does have a little bit of a tougher matchup just in general in terms of the defense. But this game is going to run pretty high in pace. As long as he stays competitive, I think it'll be a very high-scoring game. I do also think that potentially Philly could end up blowing out Minnesota. I don't think that's out of their own possibilities. I mean, this Philly team is pretty stacked, But outside of these two, so these two are both cash players. They're pretty much locked for double-doubles like every night. I just think Towns has a bigger role on his team, to where I think I'd prefer him for 100 less, especially with how much he's shooting the three ball. That really adds to Towns' value for me. I think most of these guys in the mid range here are a little bit too expensive until I get to. They're not bad plays, but I just think they're a tad too expensive for me to really delve into. But I do think the Josh Richardson price is pretty solid. He's not getting like a ton of usage, but at 5.3K playing 33, 37, 31 minutes. I love that for Josh Richardson, a guy who, again, kind of like Oubre, can get you all stats. He's a very good defender. He's going to get you defensive stats, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 1 steal. He's going to get you plenty of defensive stats. And he's a guy who's just going to be on the floor so much for this team. They like to, they're going to, he's going to run with the starters just like, with Simmons and Embiid. He's going to be out there. It's a pace-up spot. Timberwolves, Ryan Saunders wants to run as fast as they can. So that's a good spot for Richardson. All this value down here is pretty thin, so it's pretty much just between those two, or those three, I guess I should say, for guys I'm considering in this game. Outside of that, you're going to have to tune into the lock sheet. Obviously, there's a ton more plays on this slate. I didn't even really talk about the Clippers, who are going to be missing Kawhi Leonard. And obviously that is going to make Lou Williams an awesome play. That's going to make Montrezl Harrell an awesome play. That's going to make, for me, I'm a little bit more interested in Zubac for 2 reasons. One, Zubac is going to have to be defending Rudy Gobert. I don't know how comfortable they're going to feel with Harrell on Gobert, although they usually feel comfortable with him guarding traditional centers. I think that Zubac could get a little bit more run, maybe up to like 22 minutes. And if we go to Wowie, this is a very small sample size for the record. But without Kawhi on the floor this year for Zubac, in a whole 9 minutes, he's averaged 1.5 fantasy points per minute. He's obviously a very solid fantasy point per minute producer already. And you see Harrell here without Kawhi on the floor, which is just what, a lot of times he's running without Kawhi on the floor. 1.38 fantasy points per minute. So love the price on Harrell. Price on Lou is fine. Yeah, I think both those guys are definitely in play with no Kawhi. We'll have to see what kind of lineup Clippers roll out. That could open up additional value for them. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. Like we could see Harkless start. They could go with a bunch of different lineups here. I'm not going to speculate. So be sure to be in Slack. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all the rest of the injuries that come out up to lock. And thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you made it to the end. I really appreciate you guys coming back and watching. And we'll see you guys for the Thursday night video later tonight. Peace.